Mike Bond here in Las Vegas with manager extraordinary Abraham Kawa of First Round Management. Abe, first of all, we are at Jorge Masvidal's Mezcal launch party. Can you talk me through this a little bit? Obviously, you know, there's not many fighters who have an ownership stake in a alcohol brand. How did you get this done? What was your part in helping Jorge do this?
You know, I wish I could take all the credit and be like, oh, it was all me and I set this whole thing up. But when you have talent and the talent performs, people will come and people will always want to be attached to that talent. And when you really believe that you can put a winning team together, everybody wins when they're around. So like you're with MMA Junkie right now? Yeah?
Yep.
No? Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're with MMA Junkie, right? So when MMA Junkie's got a good team together and it's all you guys, everybody wins. So like when you do good, John does good, you do good, everybody feeds off of each other. So, and then people start looking, oh, let me go to MMA Junkie, let me go see what's going on. In this case, it was so natural. It was just a natural build to bring this thing together. Mutual friends reached out. We got together. Next thing you know, we're talking about bringing mezcal to the U.S., their specific mezcal. Jorge had tasted it about 2 years ago. It's just when the stars align, they align, and it aligned for this thing. So the deal was beautiful.
Do you think? I mean, we asked a similar question earlier. If you didn't have that Fighter of the Year, Knockout of the Year, that extraordinary 2019, would we be here right now doing this interview in this situation?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think things need to happen, and I think he took it upon himself to make them happen. So when people say it was a lucky shot, and you know the Till knockout was lucky, and the knee was lucky, and the BMF thing was lucky, man, that's a lucky guy. I'm gonna hang out with him all the time, no problem. That's
we need to go downstairs to the blackjack table.
And he won today. He was down there. He's up like $1,500, $2,000. I'm like, man, here we go. So I'm there.
I mean, speaking of his fighting career, obviously, you know, it seems like all the options are out there. The main two that people talk about, though, are Conor McGregor if he wins this weekend, or fighting Kamaru Usman for the belt. What would you like to see him do?
I mean, I would like to see him get paid. The guy's he's put in the work for the last 15, 16 years, and when you start talking to guys that have been doing this for so long, they put their bodies on the line for us to watch, for you to watch, for me to watch, for them to watch, you know. So when that happens, you want to see them make the most amount of money possible for their children, for their families, for the people that have always been close to them, their coaches. It means a lot. So I think the way we look at this and the way we've seen this, when me and him sat down many, many moons ago, it was always, I need to get paid. Once I get paid, everything else can come. The conversation's changed a little bit, and I think it's changed a little bit just because how close he is to the title. So usually when you're not that close to it, you just want to get paid. You don't care about it. Or if you had the title forever, you're like, I don't care about it. It's just metal. I'll go get paid now. In his case, we're right there. So really, the 170-pound division flows through him. If he wants to fight Usman tomorrow, he'll fight Usman tomorrow. If he wants to fight Conor and Conor's available, he's going to fight Conor when he wants to fight Conor. If Conor is available, right? Like, obviously, you know, I know where we are there. So those things, as is, he wants that belt. I can honestly say he wants that belt. But he needs to set his family up first. And I think the Conor fight is, you know, there now. It may not be there tomorrow.
As we continue to move forward in the 2020 schedule with some of your clients, of course, we have John Jones fighting again in February. What are the odds this is maybe not his last ever light heavyweight fight, but maybe the last stop before a potential move to heavyweight?
John's comfortable at light heavyweight. He has no reason to go up to heavyweight unless it makes financial sense for him. You know, he's already proved that he's the best fighter that we've ever seen. He's already proved that, you know, he's the GOAT. In my opinion, he is the GOAT. I don't know that he goes to heavyweight. If the challenge is there and the challenge makes financial sense, he may or may not do it. It's really up to him. So that's a question for John, but it won't be a question that I believe he would answer today. I know a lot of you guys are going to be asking him this, you know, during fight week and whatnot, and he'll give you his feelings at the time. And that's fair because the way he feels at that time is what he's going to give you, and that may change 6 months, that may change 3 months. He may wake up one day and be like, man, I don't want to cut anymore. I just want to get big like I was, you know. That may happen. We'll wait together. We're all going to wait and see and find that out, yeah.
Is there, from what you've seen from John, like a personal element to this Dominic Reyes fight? I mean, there's not all the trash talking in the world, but like he almost seems the way he's tweeting and stuff like annoyed by like this guy who like thinks just because he's like, you know, a longtime athlete or something that he feels that's going to win him the fight.
Name a type of opponent John hasn't faced yet. That's all I want to know. If you could find one opponent that
when St. Preux played football at a pretty high level,
I didn't in terms of like athletes and stuff like that. wasn't Rampage a phenomenal athlete at one point? You know, Rashad Evans wasn't a phenomenal athlete at one point. I can go down the list of guys that you're just like, man, who hasn't he seen? What type of body hasn't he seen? What type of fight hasn't he seen? But I know he is not taking this lightly one bit. I think what gets him motivated are these young killers that are kind of come up and try to take what is his, and he's building himself to that again. He's putting himself in that position of, wait a second, hold on. I'm still the king of this jungle. Nobody else is going to come in here and mess with me. So I'm excited for that fight, man. It's going to be a good one.
And as we move into March, Yoel Romero will be fighting for a UFC title once again. Of course, you know, the big controversy, I guess, with this is coming off a loss, and he gets the title shot. From your perspective, you know, working with the UFC and stuff, would this fight just have happened if Israel Adesanya didn't specifically ask for this matchup? I mean, we know Paulo Costa is injured, so they needed someone else to obviously fight for that belt. Like, is how, I guess, behind the scenes, if you can give us some sort of insight, trying to get a fighter a title shot who's coming off a loss, is that more challenging than, you know, if you have a guy who's on a long winning streak or something like that?
Absolutely. I think if you've got here's where we as fans, we as, you know, you guys in the media and whatnot, we lose sight of things. This is still entertainment. So this is a business where the most exciting fighters are always going to be put on the biggest platforms to be able to fight for the biggest prizes. If you are not exciting, it's kind of hard to put you in a position to, you know, to grow and be there. Taking nothing away from Costa, you know, he apparently has an injury to his bicep and whatnot. So it's unfortunate for him. One person's unfortunate situation is another person's fortunate situation. In our case, they have no one else at 185 that can actually do that. But it wasn't just because they had nobody else. Not having anybody else there is only one part of it. You could have made someone else jump Yoel and say, hey,
Darren Till, something like that.
anybody. You could have done anything you wanted. Someone who's coming from light heavyweight, drop down to I'm sorry, not light heavyweight. From I'm sorry, light heavyweight, drop down to 185 to middleweight to take that shot. You can say it. Here's my question to everybody. What fight did Yoel lose which was just straight, you lost that fight, Yoel? That's the question I have for everybody.
There's not a one.
There's not one. And if you were looking at it from Izzy's eyes, which Izzy has been very, you know, forthcoming and he's very honest, he said, that's the boogeyman. That's the toughest fight in the division. That's the guy I want to fight. I give all the respect in the world to Izzy for saying that, because I believe Izzy in his heart believes he beat Costa, he beat Rob possibly once, maybe twice, depending on how you look at it. And he could possibly have been defending his title a few times now. So I like the fact that Izzy did that, and Izzy was, you know, he came up and he said, that's the guy I want to go after right now. Let's do it.
And if Yoel wins this fight, he'll be the second oldest UFC champion in history behind Randy Couture. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, like, you look at him, he's in ridiculous shape. You're like, it's crazy. But have you ever had conversations with him? Like, how much longer does he want to keep doing this? It's kind of crazy to think about if he could be a champion, but, like, what's his kind of career trajectory in terms of longevity and stuff?
His answer to me has always been the same thing over and over again. When God tells me to step away, I will step away. And what he means by that is when God takes his abilities physically away from him, I think he'll know it. He'll know it before any of us even see it on tape, see it on camera, whatever it may be. I think once that gets taken from him, he will then say, okay, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. It's over. But as of right now, there's nothing that says he is even close to done. So get ready. It's going to be a fun.
I don't mean to go to a negative note here, but I know you rep Mike Perry as well, and he's been in the headlines a little bit for, you know, some of his tweets and stuff. Obviously, you know, he's been this guy since day one in the UFC. Can you shed any insight on, you know, maybe conversations you have with him and how maybe you tell him to handle his social media, any stuff like that? Because, of course, it's very controversial.
One thing I can't do, and I've been, you know, blamed many times in the past for it, I don't control people's social media. So I can't tell people what to do or not do. I can only give them advice and show them, hey, this is where you're going to lose out on things and this is where you could gain on things. In his case, Mike, if we would take the time to actually listen to Mike, you would understand where he's coming from. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. So I don't want to put myself out there and say, oh, you know, doing what he's doing is the right thing to do. But for him, and the way he grew up and the way his beginning was, it's right. So I get it. For the person that it's not used to that, or for the person that doesn't, it's not in there. For me, I don't go around doing that just the same way. I may have done it in the past, or whatnot. But for him, it's what he feels is right. It's hard for me to change that in one shot. He would have to go to jail for that. It'd have to be a law that says you're doing something wrong. That's the way he sees it. He feels that everybody else is being, closed-minded, where he's the one trying to educate everybody, and it just doesn't come out that way. So I understand the hurt, but in terms of sponsorships, it hasn't hurt him. In terms of people, they understand who he is. I think the stigma of what he's doing is probably way more blown up in the media than it is actually to the common folk. If you go look at the comments, once one person says something, everybody kind of goes in there. But then you have the other side of it where everybody's like, why are you guys messing with him? If you came from where I came from, I get it, Mike. I get it, Mike. So he's getting a 50-50 split of people saying to him, don't do it. And then you're getting the other people saying, no, Mike, we understand you. It's okay. So Mike's going to be Mike. Mike is going to be Mike, and we all have to love Mike, because if we don't love Mike, Mike's going to lose his ish. Let's love Mike. Leave Mike alone.
Well, one of the people who does endorse that is another one of your clients, Tyron Woodley, who is seemingly going to be fighting Leon Edwards in the main event in UFC London. He said, I'm not going to go overseas and fight unless it's for a vacation. How did this fight ultimately come together, and why did Tyron think this was the right move for him?
I think Tyron looked at the landscape and he said to himself, okay, I've got to get back into the mix of things. We forget Tyron has always fought the number one contender every single time.
Yes,
he has
not
never
given him major crap.
And I appreciate you for doing that. Everybody, you're like, oh, he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to do this. When we're now living in the day and age of everybody, let's call out the big superstar. We pick and choose who who is it's okay for and who it's not okay for. So when Usman, who's had one title defense, says I want to go fight GSP, everybody's like, oh. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the thing is, what the feel of the people are on him saying he wants to fight GSP. But I remember when Tyron did it, and Tyron had actual facts behind him saying, I've defended my title XYZ amount of time. Let's come and fight. Everybody jumped on his head and said, why would you say that? And then he goes and he fights the number one contender, and beats the number one contender, and that guy came up too fast, or every type of excuse. So. Excuse me, Tyron ended up with Leon, if that makes any sense. Leon, I think, has the same problem Kamaru does. No one, people don't relate. It's very hard for them to sell a pay-per-view. It's not, great fighters. I take nothing from their skills, so I want to make sure, I don't bash them. I'm not bashing them. I'm saying when Tyron has more fans in that person's own country, I told Tyron, I said, Tyron, if you go to London and you knock out Leon, you did the same thing Jorge Masvidal did a year ago. The only difference is that Masvidal walked in there and took fans from Till, compared to Tyron going into London and giving fans to Leon. That's where it becomes a little bit of an issue. So, but Tyron understands, I think, it doesn't matter anymore. He is just completely and utterly just, I'm going to kill people. That's where Tyron is right now mentally. He wants to be that killer. He's going to be that killer. So I don't think it matters anymore who, where, what. It just doesn't matter to him anymore. He just wants that fight. He wants to fight.
And last person I'll bring up, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He was our breakout fighter of the year in 2019 at MMA Junkie. He was fighting Francis Ngannou in a main event on ESPN. Have you been given any assurances or any talks? If he wins this fight, is he next for the title?
I'll leave that for you guys. If he beats Francis Ngannou, I think it's a no-brainer. He needs to be next for the title. I mean, we know we're still waiting for the whole Stipe DC thing to get figured out. If that fight ever happens, we'll eventually it does. If Jair beats Francis, who skips him? Just give me a name. I just want to know who.
The only thing I could think of is Dana White did an interview yesterday and saying he thinks Brock Lesnar might come back and fight in the UFC in 2020. That is literally the only thing I can imagine.
It's the equivalent of saying, GSP is going to come back and fight for it. Okay, guy, we get it. There goes the entertainment, the money part about it again. No problem. So if Brock is coming back, whatever, you know what I mean? We'll sit there and bitch about it and we'll moan and all that. But to be real about it, if Brock comes back, then it's a major payday, and hopefully it becomes a fight that we could get. I mean, why not? If Brock is coming back, is he coming back to fight? Did he say he's coming back to fight Stipe? Is he coming back to fight?
No, he basically just said he was asked in an interview by TSN's Aaron Bronster. He did this little game where it's they do odds about over under, and he basically said, do you think Brock Lesnar comes back in 2020? And he said yes, but he's also said yes to that same question in 2018 and 2019, and he hasn't fought yet. So there you go.
Well, I would pitch John Jones or Brock Lesnar. Why does Jair need to get skipped? What's a bigger fight? Brock versus Stipe or Brock versus John, Brock versus DC or Brock versus John. I would present that as a fight rather than Brock versus the current champion. I think Brock versus John Jones, and then everybody's dying to see John to jump to heavyweight. Well, okay, there's your jump to heavyweight. Give him the big scary monster that is in Brock Lesnar, and we could go from there and let Jair actually go fight for the title against Stipe or DC or whoever it may be that's there. Throw that at you, possible.